Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. Today's date, July 24th, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast, which means that we do pride ourselves on research, that we do pride ourselves on using the most reputable sources with award-winning journalism research to back that up. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, News Media, Newsmax, The Blaze, whatever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We give you the facts and just the facts. At the same time, guys, we do try to maintain professionalism. But let's be honest, words fly, even though we don't mean to, but sometimes cussing is the best way to do it. At the same time, guys, maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, how do we start tonight? Well, outside of the obvious, we do have to give our flowers for a historical icon that is no longer with us.
Tonight, tributes are pouring in for longtime Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Her family announcing her death on Friday night. The Democrat revealing in June that she had pancreatic cancer and was undergoing treatment. She's being remembered as a fierce fighter for justice. Jackson Lee served in the House of Representatives for 30 years. She was 74 years old. Tonight, tributes.
Yes, Sheila Jackson Lee, a representative in the House for well over 30 years. Again, whenever it comes to cancer, cancer, I cannot begin to tell you how great of a legacy that woman has, especially in the world of politics, being one of the few Black women in Congress to have such a lengthy career, but she definitely will be missed. So again, peace and condolences out to her family, and like always, cancer. But that being said, we got to do a timeline, people, because, well, since Sunday, a lot's happened. So let's just start at the beginning where we were all sitting down, Sunday, midday Sunday, and it seemed cool until this came up.
Breaking news right now. President Biden has decided to step out of the race for the White House. I'm going to read you the statement that he released in full. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve you as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. That's the president of the United States, Joe Biden, saying that he is withdrawing from the 2024 presidential race.
Okay, so again, that was Sunday. Nobody had this on their 2024 bingo card, especially after the fact that you had Democrats, small of them, were all asking for Joe to pull out the race, even though his debate performance, I will still argue that everybody has an off night. Yes, he is well over 80 years old. Yes, he, again, had a bad night. But from that bad night came Democrats calling for a different candidate. And I was one of those where I said, look, this late in the game, you can't just play pick apart and swap out a presidential candidate. But nobody on Sunday was looking at this and going, what the? Nobody. So again, Biden actually stepping down just goes to show you, hey, there's a big difference between him and Trump, because that convicted felon would have stayed in power until he croaked, given the chance. Whereas Biden was like, I don't have it in me, whatever reason, because now it becomes speculation. It's like, was he not in? Was his health in question? Was his mentality in question? You know, because he just got COVID again and was self-isolating. So, you know, the conspiracy theorists are having a fun time with that. But you have to give the man credit. He stepped down from his presidential race because, simply put, if you go by what other people are saying, think tanks and people that are in his ear telling him that the path to victory is not there for him, that the money for donations is actually not coming in because they don't want him as a candidate. You can go down an entire list. But to me, he made the right decision. He's like, someone else has to come in for this next term, and it cannot be me. But anybody else will see that and go, that's a man that's putting the country ahead of himself. He's not wanting the seat, so he's not wanting to keep the seat. So what is he doing? He's passing it by, stepping down. Cool. And it's amazing that some people who didn't like him at first are now kind of respecting him, saying, well, he's not trying to hold on to his seat. He's letting it go. So we go from Joe Biden, waiting for him to, address the nation, which he just did today, because it's still Wednesday. However, the next piece of news, well, with Biden stepping down, who's next?
Developments. First, we had the letter from the president of the United States saying that he was going to step aside in this race. Now we are seeing yet another post on social media from President Biden, because the big question after the president announced that he was going to step aside in this race was who exactly was going to step in. Mary Bruce, it seems like the president has an answer to that question on who he's endorsing here.
Rachel, the president, in a tweet just announcing that he is offering his full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party. I want to read this full message from him. He says, "My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination, to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term." He says, "My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made." He says, "Today I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats," he says, "it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." The president has always made clear, Rachel, that he believes that Kamala Harris has what it takes to be president. He wouldn't have chosen her to be vice president if he didn't. But we have seen sort of an interesting change in the way he's talked about Kamala Harris, even in the last 2 weeks. It was just 5 days ago, I think, he was out in Las Vegas doing a big event before the NAACP. And he took on Trump, especially in the way that Trump has been reaching out to black voters. And he took on the way that Trump had once used the phrase, black jobs. And the president made this quip, this joke, not joke. He was fired back at Trump saying, I know what a black job is. It is vice president. And he said, point blank, Kamala Harris could be president. And he said it in a way that made all of our ears go up and made everyone listen closely, because it is clear that he likely was thinking about what would happen if we got to this point where he had finally decided, Joe Biden decided, that he needed to step aside and step out of this race. And now he is throwing his full weight and support behind Kamala Harris. It sends a huge message, especially to this party, about where we are going now, especially with such little time left in this race.
Yes, and Mary, it's not just what the president has been saying. It's also what Vice President Kamala Harris has been doing. We saw her in the days after that event really start to concentrate on rallying black voters. We know they are the bedrock of the Democratic base. What have you seen in the days following that debate, as well as the vice president really trying to concentrate in on the core of the Democratic base?
Rachel, she has been out there working the trail hard. She has been crisscrossing this country, and she has been, especially as you noted, really trying to rally those key constituencies where so much of this election is going to come down to. The Biden-Harris ticket has been very well aware that, especially among black voters, especially young black men, they are seeing signs in the polls that the support is flipping. She has been out there, trying to get their message across to the voters who will really decide this race in November. But this entire time, Rachel, she has been a very loyal soldier. She has been adamant that they were still in this to win it. She has shown zero daylight between her and the president, as the president has been, clearly taking all of this in and trying to make this decision. Vice President Harris now catapulted to the top of the ticket. It is a remarkable, historic turn of events in the political history of this country.
So what's crazy about this is that, yes, it would make sense. Madam Vice President Kamala Harris would make sense to be the next Democratic nominee. She is beyond well qualified, and at the same time, she's younger and also a woman, which, again, for a lot of people that may not like what I'm about to say, for the last 40 plus presidents have been all men. Let's just give a woman a shot. That's all I'm saying. Because every time I can't do Madam President. We've tried Mr. President for 40 plus years. I'm sorry, not 40 plus years, 40 plus times. We've elected a man as president. Why not a woman? Other countries have figured it out. Why not us? Again, can't hurt. But the Democrats did need this because, again, they wanted somebody younger. Kamala Harris, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is definitely that. She's definitely articulate. She's smart. Again, qualified, well qualified to be the president. And at the same time, again, she is a black woman. And Fox News, of all people. Well, let's just be honest. When you're a black woman, when you're a strong, intelligent, well-spoken, well-mannered black woman, Fox News has to find something about you to make it seem like you're an evil villain.
All right, buckle up, because Democrats, the state-run media mob, they're now pitching Kamala as the second coming of Jesus, which I can assure you she is not. The puff pieces, they're already being written. The accolades, they are pouring in from every radical, democratic, leftist, socialist, Marxist in the country. The phony polls, I promise you, will follow, showing she is energizing Democrats. She might even be beating Donald Trump in a swing state or two, or maybe three. Yet in reality, just last year, Pelosi, other top Democrats, go back 1 year. They openly were doubting whether or not Harris should even remain on the ticket with Biden. Take a look.
Is Vice President Kamala Harris the best running mate for this president?
He thinks so, and that's what matters. And by the way,
think so?
She's very politically astute. I don't think people give her enough credit.
But do you think she is the best running mate, though?
She's the vice president of the United States. So when people say to me, well, why isn't she doing this or that? I said, because she's the vice president. That's the job description. You don't do that much.
I actually think it's a pretty simple question. Do you think Kamala Harris is the best running mate for President Biden? Yes or no?
I mean, I don't know what else I can say other than she would be an excellent running mate and an excellent vice president.
She's running. She's absolutely vice president. How's that for a vote of confidence? Now, despite what you might hear in the coming days and weeks, Vice President Harris was long considered toxic to the Democratic Party. And just last week, an insider advantage, that's Matt Towery, his poll showing Kamala down huge in a hypothetical matchup with Donald Trump in every battleground state. She was down by 10 in Georgia, down by 7 in Pennsylvania.
So I'm going to stop there because, as I've said before about Fox News is not a real news station. They are a state-run propaganda for the conservatives group. If you don't believe me, look up Dominion versus Fox News, because Fox News, for the longest time, said Dominion was foul. Dominion, the voting system company, did a $1 billion lawsuit against Fox, almost went to trial, and then somehow mysteriously got settled. And I've always hated that Dominion did that, because Dominion could have done what needed to be done to Fox News a long time ago. Put them in a court and have them and their associates and their so-called quote-unquote anchor people put on trial for the world to see. Because I said it before and I'll say it again, Fox News is not a news station. It is an entertainment propaganda station for white people I can call napkins, or I like to call them the unseasoned or bleached, if you will. But this is what they do, because we have a Madam Vice President who is more than qualified. Because understand what I'm about to say. We had a woman who is running for president who is qualified, who has held more positions and experience than any other politician. Because she's a woman, she has to do more. And again, we've heard the story before. Remember Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton at the time, keep in mind, was a first lady, was a senator, then a secretary of state. So this woman held 3 major positions, and she was running for president. And keep in mind, this is the same woman that called everything out about Trump and was right. This is the same woman that got held up in a 12-hour, I like to call it, interrogation by conservatives. They held her in an interview for 12 plus hours, and she didn't break a sweat. Trump couldn't handle 30 minutes being in a room with a special investigator. But I digress. We have another woman, Kamala Harris, Madam Vice President, which I wish they would effing say, because she is a Madam Vice President. Get it right. But here they are, I think we're 104 days away from elections. And this is what they do. The smear campaign has already started. And even more so, they can't sit there and say she has a questionable background. They can't sit there and say she has a questionable past. They can't attack her husband. They can't attack her kids. So you know what they're attacking? Her character. And don't believe me? Look at this wonderful idiot from my home state of Tennessee, which is progressively backwards, basically call Madam Vice President's job a DEI job.
Talking about the Vice President.
We are in the fight for.
Biden said, first off, he said he's going to hire a black female for vice president, and he just skipped over. What about white females? What about any other group? It just, when you go down that route, you take mediocrity, and that's what they have right now as a vice president. 100%. She was a DEI hire. Her record is abysmal at best.
So that was Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett is a representative out of Tennessee, and he's an idiot. I should know. I live in Tennessee. I know he's an idiot, because they hang on this whole thing of DEI. Keep in mind, diversity and inclusion jobs, because, 4 Asian students less than a year ago decided to sue Harvard, saying that they were being discriminated against for not actually getting to an Ivy League school, which allowed the Supreme Court at the time to sit there and gut a little bit of the affirmative action for entrances into college exams, for entrances into college universities. And so those 4 Asian students still didn't get in. So congratulations, you 4 Asian students. You basically killed affirmative action in DEI for most companies. Because what happened after that is that, now companies can't get sued for being discriminatory. So what happened? All these DEI jobs, roles, programs, things of that nature can go bye-bye without being sued. So now DEI is the GOP/conservatives' new N-word, because they can't say N-word, but they can say DEI jobs. Oh, well, Joe Biden sat there and said the first thing he's going to do is hire a black woman. That's a DEI job. It is amazing to me that the only people that complain about DEI jobs are white folks. Well, certain white folks. Not all of y'all, but a good number of y'all. The only ones that complain about DEI jobs. Well, he must have got that because he was black. Well, the reason that's why we had affirmative action in the first stepping place. We had it there because we need to level the playing field. Because if a white person hires another white person, they're not going to sit there and question the white person's credentials because, hey, you look like me. You must have the same ability. You're hired. Versus a black person with a different name than a white person comes in and they're under scrutinization. You may not be able to do this job, but we'll put you at a lower job and just see if you work out. Or even worse, you're a woman. When you're a woman, you got it twice as hard. But, you know, hey, if you're white, you're all right. That's the reason why affirmative action, that's the reason why it eventually evolved into DEI was needed, because the playing field had to be leveled. But you got good old boys like Tim Burchett, idiots like Sean Hannity, and again, you have others out there who are now basically saying, well, we have a DEI president. You know what I say to that? Good. The last time we had white people as president outside of Bill Clinton and maybe another one, we were screwed. So let's just see what a black woman does. Again, I digress. But keep in mind the timeline. Now that we know Kamala Harris this time does have enough support, enough delegate support to actually get the nomination, the next question becomes, who does she pick for her running mate?
It's Washington. You know how Washington works. It's hard to imagine that there aren't those on the sidelines right now who are looking to see if there's an opening here. So those who are saying that the current Vice President Harris has a lock for this, is it going to take a few days to see how it all settles out?
Yeah, almost certainly, Lester, but I'd be surprised if it takes too much longer than that, because all along, as you and as Kristen have been talking about, even with this public pressure increasing for President Biden to do what he did and withdraw from the ticket, there has been a desire for Democrats to basically get unified and get unified quickly, because they understand that the election is creeping closer and closer every single day, and that it behooves them politically to be united as a party here. So to that end, the question becomes, obviously, who ends up on the Democratic ticket now? Vice President Harris is in the pole position here. If, in fact, she does end up taking the top of the ticket, the question becomes, who would her running mate be? And there's a number of people, and I want to be clear, speculation at this moment, who could end up in that position. You're seeing the names and the pictures of some of them here, including some of whom could challenge her potentially for the top of the ticket if they chose to. Again, TBD on that, but you're looking at people like Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer, Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro, California's Gavin Newsom. He obviously spoke with Chuck. You saw that interview months ago and said that it would be Vice President Harris's ticket to lose if it were to come to that. There's Roy Cooper from North Carolina, Andy Beshear from Kentucky, J.B. Pritzker from Illinois, and Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. A couple of things to talk about on this list here. Vice President Kamala Harris, again, this is all assuming she ends up at the top there and becomes the presumptive and then official nominee for the Democratic Party. She is already from the West Coast. She's already from California. She's already got the support of a number of progressives. We have seen that today already with, for example, the chair of the Progressive Caucus coming out and throwing her support behind Kamala Harris. The question is, what is this ticket going to do to reach out to people in, for example, the middle of the country, in these key Rust Belt swing states, in some of these critical places, suburban women, swing voters, this small slice of independents who Democrats hope will turn out and help them win the White House now for a second term. That is why I think you're seeing some of the names, for example, the governor from Pennsylvania, obviously one of those critical states. You're seeing somebody like Roy Cooper. North Carolina is a place that has swung purple. I mean, it's been red, it's been blue, it's been back. And so that's another question mark there for somebody like Governor Cooper. You're seeing Andy Beshear from Kentucky. Think about who Donald Trump just picked as his running mate, J.D. Vance, somebody who the Trump campaign believes can really speak to people in those Rust Belt states. There is some thinking among Democrats that perhaps Governor Beshear could be that same kind of voice, but on the Democratic side of the ticket. All of this, Lester, let's be clear, is preliminary. You already have two of these people, Senator Kelly and Governor Shapiro, that have backed Kamala Harris, have endorsed her as the presidential nominee. But I think that things are going to move potentially fairly quickly over the course of the next few days, over the course of the next week. I happen to suspect that you might have some Democrats who wait for President Biden to come out and make his remarks publicly, as we expect him to do later on this week once he recovers from COVID, Lester. But obviously, this is a major, major moment in this campaign. It just upends it altogether at this moment. We do have some polling showing that Kamala Harris, maybe she does just as well or perhaps slightly better than President Biden against former President Trump. But let's be clear here. We don't have a lot of clarity.
So let me just stop her right there, just because, again, they get into the polls. Don't get me wrong, polls, well, you know, they're there, they're data. You can't ignore data. You really shouldn't. But again, this is another woman going up against Trump, who is eloquent, who is intelligent, and Madam Vice President will have a very fun time debating him, because the problem with Trump is Trump doesn't live in, well, reality. He lives his own delusional world. You saw that with the debate with Biden. He couldn't stop lying his ass off. Fact checkers just sat there and just assumed that at this point, whatever Donald Trump says outside of good evening, lie, pretty much. But I just want to bring this up for a second because, again, Madam Vice President, presidential nominee Kamala Harris has very little time to pick a running mate. Again, we're 104 days, give or take, away from the election. And just to kind of point this out again, this is the, speculatory. And I say speculative. I mean, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, can't go wrong there. Governor Josh Shapiro, can't go wrong there. Gavin Newsom, Lightning Rod, although he, really a good debater, so that should be interesting. Roy Cooper, not bad either. Eddie Bashir, I've never seen a Democrat last that long in one of the reddest states in the South. Still does a great job. Governor J.B. Pritzker, again, all for, definitely a champion on abortion rights. Can't go wrong there. Senator Mark Kelly, keep in mind, he was married to Gabby Giffords, who was in a horrible shooting rampage, but again, she recovered. He's basically a big staunch on gun laws. So that's just who may get picked. I'm going to be honest. And I know this is going to seem, how can I put this ever so nicely? This may seem like a pipe dream, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. I was hoping she would pick a black woman. I mean, old girl, Miss Representative Crawford, that called Marjorie Taylor Greene bad, built, butch, blonde Barbie. She's very eloquent. I can see her, but again, that's just me. But I know in the world of reality, a black woman ticket where you have two black women that are going for the presidency. Keep in mind, black women, along with other voting groups, have saved this country multiple times. But God forbid we can't have two black women on the same ticket running for the presidency and not scaring everybody. I understand it. It's a pipe dream. She has to be, the fact of the matter is she has to pick somebody that's going to appease the other bases. She has to. I keep hoping for a day that I can actually get a black ticket, literally and figuratively. But again, I digress. We will see. But like I said before, Madam Vice President doesn't have a lot of time to pick a running mate. I mean, there's the vetting, there's the background checks. She does not have a lot of time, and therefore, it's going to be interesting. I am not going to lie. It is going to be interesting. But one thing I did want to point out was, again, going back to the funding, because, again, funding backs everything. If you don't get the funding, you're not going to make it far in campaigns. Unfortunately, money is still in politics. Until that comes out, we're stuck with it. But here's the beauty part about black folks that I love to death. It is amazing the power of unity that we have if we're all on the same goal. The reason why I bring this up is basically, and again, I just want to give we're still on a timeline, right? So in this timeline, and I just want to just throw this out there so we're all on the same page. So after Kamala Harris was endorsed by still President Joe Biden, there was a event called Win with Black Women. Win with Black Women was put together so fast on probably one of the largest Zoom calls. As they said, more than 44,000 people joined this call. This event raised over $1.5 million in donation funds for our presidential hopeful Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. Think about that. This was organized within hours after Harris was endorsed by Biden, put together, and 1.5 million within 90 minutes was raised by this event. Even more so, now that's just the tip of the iceberg. Even more so, there was another event that was put together, Win with Black Men, that, again, modeling the Win with Black Women event, had more than 53,000 attendees, and in their 4 hours raised $1.3 million. So you got to think, within 24 hours with 2 different events have raised, let's see, 1.5, 1.3. So you're looking at nearly over almost $4 million that was raised in less than 24 hours with these events. And again, I cannot overstress, mind you, that this was all done in mere hours, and it was done on Zoom and StreamYard calls. All Black people, which again, if you haven't figured out where I'm going with this, yes, Black folks, we need to come together. And yes, some of you seasoned white, some of you seasoned napkins out there, and other people of color, we do need to come together, because and not to pull a Charleston White, because that guy's a freaking idiot. These are your 2 options, because people always say, well, I want different options. I want this. We should have different candidates as presidential candidates. This isn't fast food. This isn't McDonald's, not Burger King. You had 3 years to do the research, look into candidates that represent your views, and push for them, speak on their behalf, advocate for them. You didn't do that. So when it came down at that point to Biden and Trump, those are your choices. You can't complain, but hopefully you do your civic duty. Now Biden's out, Kamala Harris is in, and we now have a candidate that we can get behind, as we should. So again, I cannot stress this enough. Come voting, please do your civic duty. Please come together. Right now, Kamala Harris is basically trying to do a year's worth of campaigning inside of 4 months. Impossible? No. Difficult? High. But it can be done. But again, we need to come together. It's just that freaking simple. And the same thing's gonna get echoed, because I had to show this from Joy Reid in the readout, because if you haven't seen and beforehand, it's gonna go through Fox News because they're still having their meltdowns. But I just wanted to point out something that Roland Martin says on here, along with everybody else. He echoes my sentiments exactly.
Tens of thousands joining a video call to raise money and support for Harris's presidential bid. It comes as Republicans claim to be making an appeal to Black men while unleashing a flood of racism and sexism against this historic candidate, saying she's a DEI vice president and worse.
I don't know Kamala. I served in the United States Marine Corps, and I built a business. What the hell have you done other than collect a government check for the past 20 years?
She didn't earn this. She inherited it. And Americans aren't hot on heirs. They like self-made men and women.
He chose her as his running mate, not because of her marriage.
Okay, so that's nice. So apparently I can't share that. So apparently I can't share that because MSNBC has a thing. No biggie. Give me 1 second, because if we can't show it there, there's other places we can go. But they were going into this whole thing, guys, and I just want to show you really quickly, because they're going into this whole thing about this attack on her, if you will. And that's the crazy part. The attacks. It's like, oh, well, she didn't earn this. She didn't do this. Okay, you're whining, and it shows you're whining, because this is what I was talking about, guys. When I sit there and say they don't have anything, and I mean they don't have anything. So hang on, guys. Let's go to Roland Martin's side and see if it shows there. Okay, let me see some front. There we go. Okay, now we're good.
Last night, Black men rallied for Vice President Kamala Harris, with tens of thousands joining a video call to raise money and support for Harris's presidential bid. It comes as Republicans claim to be making an appeal to Black men while unleashing a flood of racism and sexism against this historic candidate, saying she's a DEI vice president and worse.
I don't know Kamala. I served in the United States Marine Corps, and I built a business. What the hell have you done other than collect a government check for the past 20 years?
She didn't earn this. She inherited it. And Americans aren't hot on heirs. They like self-made men and women.
He chose her as his running mate, not because of her merit, not because she deserved the position, which go back and look at what she's done as vice president. Very little, if anything. It was because of how she looks.
People are going to say that you're slut shaming and all that stuff. I don't care. She slept her way to the top.
Sometimes you got to keep your feelings inside.
because you're on the TV. Joining me now, Michael Steele, former RNC chair and co-host of The Weekend on MSNBC, and Roland Martin, host of the daily digital show Roland Martin Unfiltered, and the host of last night's Black Men, gathering for Kamala. So I'm gonna come back to you in a second, Roland, but I have to go and allow my friend here at the statement. Donald Trump inherited $317 million from his dad, then promptly lost $900 million, and they got hooked up by banks and, maybe some mafia folks to sort of build himself back up. He's been bankrupt 6 times. He became president because he was on a TV show and an employee at NBC on The Apprentice. Megyn Kelly, the things that in the book that she was in about Fox News, the people are, anyway, I won't go there. I won't go there.
But I was going to say, didn't she work at Fox?
Let's go to the guy who says she didn't earn it. I'm sorry. She got elected. She was a duly elected incumbent prosecutor
more than once,
and attorney general and a senator. Sorry, is it just because she's Black?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just curious.
Yes. I mean, what is the threat here? I mean, if you disagree with the position she led on in the administration, then talk about that. But somebody's going to call this slut shaming, and then you slut shame. So why do you have to make it so personal? Well, you make it personal.
Yeah, she earned it. I mean, well,
you make it personal because you want to drive that negative narrative to that hard edge of the base that eats that like.
But also, who are you bringing in, right? I mean, J.D. Vance, first of all, has no right to call this woman by her first name, okay? She's not your housemaid. You don't get to call her by her first name, J.D. She's vice president of the United States. Show her some respect. And J.D. Vance was basically the house pet of Peter Thiel. He wouldn't have a job if Peter Thiel hadn't given him a job. He wouldn't have a career, and he paid for a Senate campaign. How did he earn being a senator?
But what did he do before he became a senator? He wrote a book.
Dissing his own people. Let's go over to you, Roland.
Roland?
I'm sorry. We had to get those out.
Let's be real.
Please.
Let me say this to all the white Republicans. Black people, we don't care what y'all think.
No.
Why am I saying that? Every accomplished Black person we've had, you're an affirmative action hire. You're a DEI hire. You got here for quotas. Listen, we heard that crap in college. We've heard it on jobs. We're not Clarence Thomas. We're not going to sit here and wilt and go, oh, my God, they're criticizing me. I'm not one of them. We don't care. Her resume politically, J.D. Vance can't even touch.
No.
So Megyn Kelly, you can go to hell. Jesse Waters, you can go to hell. And the rest of y'all. What did Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, say? Of course, it's not appropriate, for heaven's sake. What are they just going to say if you're not a white male? It's a DEI candidate? I'm sorry, no. And lastly, white women, y'all need to be calling them out because they call y'all DEI hires the Secret Service women who was trying to protect Trump.
That's right.
So that's just the real deal.
Let's go to this event last night because it was actually really positive. Talk about it, Roland. You guys had a lot of women on. First of all, a lot of women did it first, did win with Black women, and then you guys.
So here's the deal.
How'd it go?
The black women on Sunday, they've been meeting for 4 years, every single Sunday. So after Biden announced his decision, I was playing my man Wendell Hanson's golf tournament, the Richard T Classic in New Jersey. Mike Blake called me, and I was calling him too. He's like, yo, man, we got to get the brothers together. He was like, hey, we want to work with your platform. I was like, all right, let's do it. That call literally came together in 24 hours. The brothers involved, it was Mike Blake, Bakari Sellers, Khalil Thompson, as well as Quentin James. We had never done anything together. We put this thing together. We used StreamYard. We used My Black Star Network. We wanted to be public and open. 53,000. This is the number of Black men. I know 45,000 sisters on they call, but 53,000 Black men. And here's what's so crazy. My digital guy sent me a text because I'm actually live doing my show right now, Joy, only for you. I stepped away. He sent me a text and he said,
favor ain't fair, Roland.
He said that.
Go on.
He said that Black men are watching the replay on StreamYard and still registering. So we're now up to 55,000.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, and the thing is, it does
they
belie
are looking for belonging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as an electoral matter, this is an important thing to do, right? Because there is an attempt on the Republican side to portray Donald Trump, because he has felonies, as being attractive to black male voters.
And
this is a different way.
That's so insulting.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think so little of us that that's your go-to to take your white convicted felon and think that we identify with him because he's a convicted felon and he's
Don't forget the tennis shoes.
I was about to go to you, Roland. You know my mind, baby boy. I was about to go to those Golden Made tennis shoes and the idea that you could say you're going to protect our access to menthol cigarettes. Amen. Lord have mercy. I feel like I can go to church now on Sunday.
Eric Erickson added, Kamala Harris is the daughter of an Indian and Jamaican immigrant who married a Jewish man. Her experience is the American dream and melting pot, but not really the black experience, particularly that in southern swing states like Georgia and North Carolina. I doubt he knows any black people. Because this woman literally went to Howard University.
But does Eric Erickson know the origin story of Jamaicans?
No, I don't.
Do you know where Jamaicans are from? Do you know the origin story? No. It's called Africa. Just because they are in Jamaica doesn't mean that's where they originated.
Very quick last word.
Sorry.
And Eric, come on. Eric, you the king of mayonnaise. So please, let's not talk about seasoned chicken when you are unseasoned chicken. Please. This sister grew up in Oakland in the Bay Area. She know black folks. And Eric, it's a lot of black people. Harry Belafonte, Shirley Chisholm, Stanley Stokely Carmichael, who are not from here.
Who are Caribbean. Indeed, Michael Steele.
Yep, Roland Martin is my spirit animal. Anyway, but they're right. It is, and again, this is the campaign that we didn't make everybody aware on. This is what's going to make things difficult, because they're already starting the smear campaign. Oh, she's a DEI hire. Oh, she's this. And Roland Martin said it best. We don't care, because as people of color, as black people, that's all we've heard. You don't think, I said every black person's been heard. Oh, you probably can't, every black person has heard that on the job, in school, in certain areas where, let's be honest, they don't want us there. Oh, you was part of a quota. Oh, you was affirmative action. Oh, you got in because of this, this, and this. It doesn't matter how I got in. You're mad because I'm here. And that's what it should be. Disruption. Here's the thing. They're so comfortable with the way things are that disruption needs to happen. And again, I am not mad about the fact that Kamala Harris will do that. And it upsets them. Upsets them so much that I know I'm asking for this because, again, I am happy that the donations for Madam Vice President are coming in. I think they're topping over 100 million the last time I checked, which, again, is great. At the same time, guys, I do want to point this out because I know a lot of our news tonight was surrounding the newest Democratic nominee. But if you want to understand why I'm saying vote and to be active and to vote, to get others registered and to vote, to get people out to the polls and to vote, to take advantage of early voting and to vote, as I keep repeating this, understand, even though we have a potential woman who could wind up being the next president, but the first Madam President, keep in mind, relating this to women who are Trump voters. And again, I'm not going to try to play all of it, but understand this is what we're facing.
Having Vice President Kamala Harris as the nominee dramatically changes Donald Trump's odds of winning.
I'm worried about it.
Yes.
I think she's going to go for the minority and female and younger voters.
Progressive.
Everybody's excited about her.
Right.
And that scares me, because Trump has to reconfigure where he's going and how they're going to outsmart her.
How do you perceive Vice President Harris compared to President Biden in terms of competency and experience?
I think she's worse. She doesn't even know what's going on at the border.
Right.
And that's what she was
supposed to be doing
and in charge of. I mean, as a school teacher, if I did not do what I was supposed to be doing, you better believe my job would be in jeopardy. Well, it isn't. It not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring, would make you consider voting for her?
No. Never considered voting for her. No. I would do RFK Jr. way before her. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And she's not the first woman to run for the presidency, Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming no one voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's not necessarily going to sway you to vote for a woman in office. When do you think America will have a female president?
When there's a competent one.
I don't get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot.
Right.
Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
Because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart. That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
If Vice President Kamala Harris wins the election, do you think that will be an honest result?
No.
No one respects her.
Haley's, the very unsurprising, some fairly unsurprising responses there from the MAGA group that you talked to. I'm really interested in the other group you did, which is the kind of the swing voter group, the center right voters, and I'm interested because one of the things that the Trump campaign has done, in addition to some of the racist and sexist attacks that they've launched against her over the course of the last couple of days, there has been in their advertising, their digital video, there's been this focus on the question of she was in on it, she was concealing President Biden's health and trying to make that one of the many arguments they want to make about her. I'm curious in that group, in the center right group, not the MAGA group, what you hear from them about that issue. I'm trying to kind of get a sense of whether that is an issue that has real salience with voters and something that the Harris campaign is going to have to deal with going forward.
Well, Howman, that's a great question, because that's exactly what we're about to hear in the next clip, and why we chose this clip, because it really came out so organically. The idea that these swing voters, that these right-leaning voters are grappling with considering Vice President Harris, but they feel misled by the Biden administration about Biden's fitness. And so they don't necessarily trust her, and they question if she played a role in a so-called, quote, cover-up of President Biden's health. So let's listen to the second group of voters. These are undecided voters, talk about their caveats with Donald Trump and with Kamala Harris. If you have one concern about President Trump, tell me that concern, and then what's your one concern about Kamala Harris?
For me, my concern about Trump is him making too aggressive of choices and us not being able to recover from it. I appreciate that he is willing to, if a bomb is dropped on our doorstep, he is out the door as fast as it hit us. But that does make me nervous, because did we vet everything that's going to happen of it? My concern about Harris is a bomb is dropped on our doorstep. It's going to be 6 months before we move, and now we're viewed as weak. So again, which route do I really want to go? It's personal questions on myself. So it makes me a little nervous on both sides.
What about you, Brad?
It would just be nice if they concentrate more on the issues instead of the mudslinging and personal attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got problems in this country. The left wing and the right wing are on the same bird. I mean, let's try to find that common ground, but we can't agree on things. And start with that.
What about you, Karen?
I don't think we can ignore Trump's convictions, his integrity, his moral character. I worry about him if he gets retaliation for, something he gets him upset, and he's going to retaliate without slowing down, thinking it through. I honestly need to get more information about Camilla, because I just don't know enough about her. So I'm going to wait and see. I have to kind of step back and see I've learned a lot just through our conversation today.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop it right there. Okay. I try to tell y'all that's the swing voters. Beforehand was MAGA people, MAGA women, and I will never understand that for as long as I freaking live. I will never understand that at all. At the same time, guys, the fact that they need more information. Well, I just don't know that much about Kamala Harris. Everybody has a smartphone. Everybody has Google. You can easily find out all the information you want to. At the same time, well, I just with Trump and his felony convictions. I miss the times when a person that had more than 30 had more than 30 felony convictions, you wouldn't consider him as president, especially since a lot of them are dealing with mortgage fraud. You wouldn't consider them as president. You wouldn't, in no shape, in no form. You simply wouldn't do it. At the same time, you have now a candidate who is qualified, who has held many positions, and the last one being that she was Madam Vice President for a term. Why not would she not be presidential material? And as Roland Martin said it, when you're black, they got questions. When you're white, it's all right. Because, they always say, well, I didn't like Hillary either. Well, Hillary was a Democrat, not a conservative. And as you guys have heard me say on this podcast multiple times, the GOP will never elect a person of color. Never. That's why Tim Scott and Byron Daniels stopped singing Trump songs when they realized Trump wasn't going to pick them for the VP. You believed a felon and you got played. In the words of DJ Khaled, congratulations, you played yourself. So, where does that leave us now? Right now, Madam Vice President has a road to climb. But we do need to, I'm just going to, I keep on saying to be impartial on this show. I keep on saying that, we give you all the facts and allow you to make up your own mind. But when the facts are speaking clear as day, you have to call what it is. Trump cannot get his second act. If he does, trust me, that is a story nobody wants to live through, because I guarantee it's going to be chaotic. And the only people that will really be praising him are corporations and those whose bank accounts are larger than ours, larger than mine, larger than you and me. Those are the only guys that are going to be happy that Trump got a second act. However, we're once again standing at the edge of history. We saw not too long ago America elect its first black man as president. So why not cover this on two fronts? Elect a woman to be Madam President, but also electing the first black woman to be Madam President. Again, guys, we got work to do. Promote. And again, I say this from a voting standpoint. Please get registered. Go to vote.org. And if you don't know your voting status, please go there. It will tell you this. It will tell you the status of your registration, where you can go to vote, where you can go for early voting. I cannot stress this enough. If voting wasn't critical, they would not be trying to redistrict counties. They would not be trying to merge voter polls. They wouldn't be against automatic voter registration. They wouldn't be against making election days a federal holiday so you don't have to worry about trying to go to work at the same time getting to the polling booths in time to vote. They wouldn't be doing all this. And I stress this very heavily, unless your vote matters. And if you don't believe me, look at Georgia. Georgia was able to go from a red state to a blue state and elect its first black U.S. senator since its inception. We can do the same thing for Madam Vice President. Because again, if you vote for Trump, I have no love lost for you. I either assume you're rich, or you're rich in front of a corporation, or you're an idiot that loves the pipe dream of watching living vicariously through a con man, now a convicted felon. I leave it up to you. But like I said, we didn't want to. I know a lot of our podcast tonight was on Madam Vice President, but there are two stories that we do got to talk about. The first one being that unfortunately, the director of the U.S. Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, did resign. And again, this was one of those during her investigation, or I should say the interrogation on Capitol Hill. Let's just say it's been most Republicans asking stupid questions. And yes, we got the video.
This committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest.
On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency.
Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's detail?
Neither, sir, and I appreciate the question.
What were you doing? Because those statements don't jive.
So what I can tell you is that for the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied. As far as requests...
Well, maybe they got tired of asking. Maybe you turned them down so darn much, they said, not worth asking.
So no employee has been disciplined and no employee has been placed in any position that would place their job in jeopardy nor their standing in the agency.
We are still in the process of
That's not what I asked. You're the person that runs the place. You're the person that knows right from wrong, good from bad. You've had a number of days, and now you come before this committee knowing you're going to be before us, and you've got to slough it off to someone else.
How did this happen? And why are you still sitting here not turning in your letter of resignation?
I will be joining the chairman in calling for the resignation of the director, just because I think that this relationship is irretrievable at this point. And I think that the director has lost the confidence of Congress at a very urgent and tender moment in the history of the country.
But a president was almost assassinated live on television, not just for Americans, but for the world to see. And this being your first opportunity, I understand there's an ongoing investigation. I understand there's things that you can not talk about. But the idea that we're getting less than you did on television is something that Democrats, Independents, and Republicans are going to find unacceptable.
And this is the problem I have with these types of hearings. Number one, he's not a president. Donald Trump is not the president. I hate the fact it's still being referred to. A president was almost assassinated. No, a candidate was almost assassinated. Let's call it what it is. Number two, the investigation on that attempted shooting is still ongoing. So what do you expect the director of the Secret Service to say in front of a House committee with an ongoing investigation? And they're just, the reason why I hate this, it's political theater. It's because Trump's lackeys, Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're going to be putting on a show. Why haven't you turned in your resignation? This is how I know I couldn't be a politician, because I look at a person like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and if she tries to grill me from my position, I'm going to be like, heifer, how are you still here? And again, the whole idea of this was that Trump, albeit because he does outdoor rallies, and he has been warned about, him and his team has been warned about doing outdoor rallies, which I find it interesting now that they're no longer doing outdoor rallies as he's on his campaign trail. But be that as it may, that was just political theater. Yes, it was only going to be a matter of time before Director Cheadle did actually turn in her resignation. She was called, and here's the thing that they didn't show in the video, but it actually happened in the hearing. She was called a DEI hire. Now imagine that. A woman who leads the Secret Service is called a DEI hire. Her only claim to failure was the fact that some guy almost took Trump out. And I say almost because he was a bad shot. But that's the only reason and an ongoing investigation to where some politicians felt like we're not getting enough answers from her, calling for her resignation. So here's my thing. So she resigns. What happens when the investigation is over and you find out that, well, even though it was under her watch, that it may have been the fault of someone else? See, this whole rush to judgment, somebody has to immediately pay for a situation. See, sometimes it's clear as day that it's the person's fault. If it's that person's fault, then yeah, they need to be fired. They no longer need to have that position. But when you're the director of the Secret Service, which has the most stressful job, because not only you're protecting politicians, you're protecting representatives, senators, politicians in general, but then you got to protect convicted felons like Trump, who go out of their way to be extravagant, and they're a risk. And you have to do risk assessments. I know a lot of people are going, but the guy who was right there was less than 400 feet from the president. Somebody had to not watch what they're doing, and it happened on her watch. So let the investigation be done. And at the end of the day, if she's found liable, then she gets resigned. But I hate the fact when I see hearings like that during an ongoing investigation, and it's just like, what more do you want done? Except for the person to be fired, because that's really what you want. And I hate that because it doesn't get to the fact of the matter that, hey, the investigation needs to be done first before you pass judgment to the line in the sand, usually the director higher up. I'm just saying. So the last story we got, guys, I've been hesitant to really bring this up because, again, another story like this, and I have to stress this very, very, very heavily. This is graphic. This is triggering. This is I don't want to take too much away from this. I don't want us to be desensitized to this. I really don't. But we have another story of where, again, law enforcement reacts so heinously that it can only be described as murder. Sonya Massey, and I will continue to say her name along with the others, but Sonya Massey, just to give you guys some context, thought there was an intruder around her home and called 911. What happened next was the end of that woman's life. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, you called us. Okay. So what'd you hear? Somebody was outside my house.
Body cam footage released by the Sangamon County State Attorney's Office shows the final moments of Sonya Massey's life, the Springfield area woman who was fatally shot by one of the responding deputies to a 911 call she made. Massey called 911 because she thought an intruder was in her home, according to the lawyer representing her family.
We checked your yard. We walked around the whole block. We didn't see anybody.
Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson and another deputy responded to the call around 12:50 a.m., authorities said. The deputies searched the property and found no intruder. The deputies then asked Massey to check on a pot of boiling water on the stove.
Check on her. We don't need a fire while we're here. All right. Okay. Huh? Where you going? Away from your hot steaming water. Away from my hot steaming water? Yeah. Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You better God, I swear to God, I'll you straight in your face. Okay, I'm sorry. Drop the pot! Drop the pot! I'm gonna go get my kit. No, your headshot, dude. She's done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot. God damn it. God. Dude, I'm not taking boiling water to the head. Hey, look, it came right to our feet, too.
Grayson has been indicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder and a count each of aggravated battery with a firearm and official misconduct. The Sheriff's Department has fired Grayson. At his arraignment, Grayson entered a not guilty plea and was denied pretrial release, according to court records. CNN reached out Saturday to Grayson's attorney, who...
So, yeah, imagine, again, and again, I'm not trying to desensitize this because we've seen this time and time and time again. We've seen this. We've seen too much of this. We've literally, I mean, that was a woman who was fearing for her life. You know, fearing for her life now, called 911, said that there was an intruder. Cops went around, didn't find anything, came in the house. The officer sat there and told the woman, you know, go ahead and turn off your stove. I don't want, you know, boiling water over there. And, you know, it was lighthearted at first. And then she goes, oh, you scare my boiling water? Yeah, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. What was it about that sentence that made that cop sit there and go, no, no, pull his gun. Don't fucking do that. I will fucking shoot you. What? I'm sorry. All she sat there and said is, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And that was your trigger? And then you pulled a gun on a unarmed woman. Both of you pulled, which I'm surprised the other officer should have sat there and said, she's unarmed. Why are we? No, she's unarmed. She has no weapon. Why are we pulling? There should have been a de-escalation point because that poor woman had two guns drawn on her. She's holding a pot of boiling water. She's fearing for her life. This is no longer policing. We're now crossing into murder. Even more so where the guy goes, no, don't go get kid. She's dead. That's a fucking headshot, dude. That's a headshot. She's not getting up. Yeah, man. And then there's other audio about this guy out there. And I don't feel bad for him. I do not feel bad about that deputy because it should be him and the partner right next to him. See, that's the thing that bothers me. Only that guy, only Sean Grayson is in jail right now. His partner next to him should also be in jail because you're an accomplice to murder. You sat there and from the video, it looked like both of them shot. But you were right there as your partner drew on this woman. How is it that Sean Grayson is in jail and his partner is not? And Grayson has been fired. Sheriff's Department fired him. Okay, cool. But what about his partner? Because that's the question I'm asking. And the thing about Grayson, for a lot of people, you know, as that news is coming out, he worked for 6 different law enforcement agencies in Illinois since 2020. And each of them, he has issues, conduct unbecoming of an officer, and various other write-ups. So you're telling me that this guy was able to go through 6 different agencies since 2020. So for 4 years, this guy's been going through 6 different agencies, law and to protect and serve. And nobody batted an eye. Nobody questioned it. Nobody didn't sit there and go, wait a minute, why is this dude still serving? Hold up. Nobody says it. And again, now we have another woman unarmed, killed by police. And I'm sorry, that man, he was denied pretrial for one reason and one reason alone. Because, again, the safest place for him right now is probably a jail. Because eventually it's going to get to a point where folks are going to get fed up. I mean, Breonna Taylor, Tanya Jefferson. I'm just like, how many more times are we going to keep saying that there is a law enforcement problem in the U.S. when it comes to people of color? When it comes to people of color and anybody else who's not white, law enforcement has a problem with us. Law enforcement has a trigger finger problem. Law enforcement has a de-escalation problem. Law enforcement is literally too easy of a job for some folks who are not qualified for to get. And you've heard me say this on this podcast. And I tell anybody who's in law enforcement, tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. It is easy. I said, you literally study, and pursue careers, it takes you longer to be a contractor. It takes you longer to be a beautician. It takes you longer to be a nail tech. It takes you longer to be a nurse. It takes you longer to be a tractor. It takes you longer to be a truck driver. And this is not a knock on truck drivers. Truck drivers is an amazing profession because a lot of cities depend on truck drivers, and without truck drivers, a lot of the country gets shut down. This is no disrespect to you guys. It takes longer to do that profession than it is to do law enforcement. You know why? Law enforcement only takes 6 months. 6 months in the academy, and after that, you are out to protect and serve. And and again, law enforcement teaches you to shoot to kill. We don't have the same law enforcement that other countries have, where you have to have a degree, where you have to be, you have to have mental screenings along with physical screenings. Yes, we want you fit, but we also want to make sure that you're right in the head, because we're basically giving you a gun and a badge and saying, hey, protect us. We don't want you to snap or have a bad day. You also don't get mental awareness training to where you're dealing with somebody who may be having a mental issue or things of that nature. So instead of trying to de-escalate them, which again, teaching de-escalation tactics, you could actually help them survive. And both of you go home instead of you pulling a gun and then explain that, oops, I'm sorry, I fear for my life. The thing is, when it comes to people of color, this is the fear. And this is just adding to it. Well, they'll say, why you won't call 911? Because I'm not sure whether or not police show up, that I'm going to go home tonight. When during a traffic stop, I don't know if I do like, why, I don't know if it's like, why'd you stop here? Because I don't know if I'm going to go home tonight. That is the rational fear that some black people, that a lot of black people, myself included, can have, because we've seen what happened when law enforcement interacts with us, that sometimes it turns into a homicide. Now, I know a lot of people like Officer Tate out there, because Officer Tate loves the police. A lot of these people are saying, well, what about due process? What about, innocent until proven guilty? We don't know what the officer saw. If this is your point of view in this discussion, understand what I'm about to say very clearly. If you are defending that officer who killed that woman, who was unarmed with nothing more than a pot of boiling water, and you believe that the officer should have due process, or the officer was justified, or if you believe that not all the facts have come out, frack you. And I say frack you because I can't say what I want to say, because if I say that, this podcast may not be aired. But I say frack you because some things deserve due process. Some things deserve further investigation. This ain't it. This is a woman who was literally went from frightened to okay to saying, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And then Mr. Grayson decided that he had to pull the gun on her. That's murder. Murder one. And honestly, let the punishment fit the crime. He ended a life. His life should be over. And what I mean by that is in prison, no parole. And at the same time, let all the inmates know he's a former cop. And let nature take care of itself. That's all I'm saying. But yes, say her name. And we will follow up with that story, because I still believe that the other officer should be in jail right along with said person. But again, until we have law enforcement reform, these stories are just going to continue. And I really, as part of my job on this podcast, I really do hate reporting that type of news, but I feel it's my duty to do so, because again, we need to bring awareness. We have to bring disruption to make you uncomfortable, but to also make you aware. And again, we don't want to see this any more than you do. So what happens? We need to have law enforcement reform. Hey, another thing that our future Madam President can bring up. Let's see what she does with that. But anyway, we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment, because usually how the Frack We Got Here, guys, it's all about doom. Sometimes it's just doom and gloom that we always bring. But hey, it's hump day. It was Wednesday, which is right now. It's early morning Thursday. So thank you for sticking with us. We want to leave you guys out some good vibrations. And this one I love, because this twin sister, these two twin sisters have reached the age of 100. And again, there's something about their genetics, but I just want to share their story.
All I say is blessed to be here at 100 years old to live this long. I never thought it would happen or not happen. I never thought about it. Always together with everything. She didn't go without me, I didn't go without her. Always together. I'm not a dancer. But the Lord bless us to see our family, and that was a blessing. Life is very precious, or I wouldn't be here. It's just precious to live this long.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You're not lying. 100 years old and twins, and the family that the family that you're able to just celebrate with. That's just a beautiful thing, no matter how you cut the mustard. But 9 children and great grandchildren and great great grandchildren. That's a legacy right there, folks. But anyway, that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all who liked, who watched, who shared this. I apologize for the lateness, guys, but hey, life be life, but we were still going to get this podcast out. But thank you all for watching. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here, guys. I keep on talking about Blurred Station. Yes, it is the vehicle we've always wanted. We always wanted our version of Netflix, our version of Hulu, our version of Amazon Prime. This is definitely it. Please check it out at blurredstation.com. Again, if you do want to join, please select the Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership, which actually will show here. And once you go here, guys, once you're on Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership, if you'll just select Black Spartan, that's basically me. As you can see, guys, that does help out the cause. And it's $10.99 a month. Yes, $10.99 a month to view Blurred Station. The movies, the television shows, the anime, the manga, and more things that are coming. I cannot stress this enough that we are finally building the table we've always wanted. And again, $10.99 a month. You can't beat that with a stick. After 36 months of paying $10.99 a month, you do have the ability to own a piece of Blurred Station. And I'm sorry, that's a lot easier than trying to basically buy stocks in Amazon or Netflix or even Apple. Again, it's the move. At the same time, guys, if you are a content creator and would love to have your content shown on Blurred's Eye View, you first must join Blurred Station. After joining, you'll be able to speak with those behind the curtain. And if all works out, your content will be available on Blurred Station. And your content is yours to own. At the same time, guys, Blurred Station does take a little bit off the distribution. And honestly, you can't knock them for that. We all got to make money somewhere. But definitely check out blurredstation.com. Again, it is the move that we've always wanted. Also, myself, Black_Spartan615 on all the socials. Again, very friendly person. Talk about anything. Just don't be weird. That's all I ask. Don't be weird. Don't make me have to use the block button. Don't make me have to flag you. I am all for talking conversations, politics, things of that nature. But keep it clean, keep it informative, and keep it pushing. And most of all, don't be weird. That's all I'm asking. Beyond that, guys, as we wrap this up, the link at the bottom, I'll just make that a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that link into your browser, we'll take you to the link to the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, the Offense Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Again, guys, I see the views. I see the likes. I appreciate it. Feel free to comment because I still want to know your thoughts on everything that we talked about. And again, the conversation is engagement. The conversation is to keep things moving. The conversation is always there to help, to really bring awareness. And that's the whole point of the mission. Just saying. And also, How the Frack We Got Here can be found wherever your podcast can be heard or seen, which means that also heard or seen, which also includes Google, Apple Play, Spotify, things of that nature. So wherever you get your podcast, you can find a little of me. Also, always record TV. is as an app that's also on the web, as well as in Roku devices, that has all the How the Frack We Got Here shows there, so you can see little old me there as well. Definitely check out that app. However you watch it on your smartphone or tablet, up to you. That being said, guys, as I wrap this up, I cannot stress enough that yes, we do now have a Black woman who is already an accomplished vice president, Madam Vice President, who is now running for Madam President of the United States. She alone, just entering, is more than qualified than convicted Dorito, but she needs our help to get there. She needs every vote. And again, guys, go to vote.org if you are unsure of registration, if you're unsure where to go. Basically, go to vote.org and make sure you're prepared. Because trust me, like I live in the South, they're about to do some tomfoolery to mess with voters. And I cannot stress this enough. Be informed, be educated on where to go, make sure that you have all the documents, bring people with you. Because again, voting this time, or I should say every time, voting is crucial. If you want to know the candidates, you have Google. Use it. Know all that you want to about Kamala Harris. Because guess what? Fox News and the other extreme right sites and publications will be combing through every part of her life, trying to find something, because they have to discredit her. Discredit and character assassination is what they have to do, because now Trump's exposed. It's no longer the battle of the older white men. It is now the battle of an educated Black woman versus a convicted felon. So again, please go out, get registered to vote. Early vote if you can, but please, this is not a time to sit out because you don't like the choices. This is not a time to sit out because you feel like, you can't stand either one of them. Please vote. That is all I ask. That being said, guys, last thing I say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better in society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, and now hopefully electing our first Black woman to become the first woman and Black woman president of the United States. All can be great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. We'll hopefully get through this. Please go out and vote. Peace.